You just presented at CREST. Can you give us a summary of what you put forward?
Of course. In today's environment where the threats that organizations are facing come from nation states as much as they do from traditional hackers, boards have to look at how they deal with cybersecurity in a completely different way. First off, boards actually have to pay attention to the cyber risk. They have to get themselves involved in identifying what the risk is and putting in place resources and processes that enable them to manage that risk down to a level that is in line with their risk appetite. And that means that boards have to recognize that cyber perimeter has changed. It's no longer the monolithic single perimeter that it was, that people working at home and in coffee shops around the world provide a real opportunity for attackers to get into and infiltrate and steal data. The real challenge, though, isn't at that simple level. It's countries like Iran, Russia, and particularly China, who in one way or another are involved in conducting war on multiple levels, including outer space and particularly cyberspace, and where an attack on an opposing country's critical national infrastructure and information systems is seen as a basic precursor to any other form of attack. And of course, the collateral damage of that type of activity, allied with the existence of what are called advanced persistent threats, the sophisticated presence inside organizations of terrorists and criminals stealing data, creates a situation in which today's organizations are facing threats which in many cases they're not even aware of, and they're operating in an environment where they will almost certainly already have been breached and they're not aware of it and not doing anything helpful to tackle it. So in my presentation today, I was talking through the range of risks, how they fit together, and looking at the 7 steps that any sensible organization might take to prepare itself to be cyber resilient, to defend itself against attacks, and to respond in a way that enables it to survive when it is breached, as it almost certainly will be.
And is the type of response that an organization needs to put forward different now we're moving into this world where the attacks are coming from nation states or quasi-nation state organizations or terrorist organizations or hacktivist organizations than when it was primarily a criminal matter?
Well, of course, it's worth bearing in mind that serious organized crime now has massive technological capability. So if the criminals don't get you, then yes, a hacktivist or a nation-state entity will. And the reality is that boards do have to do something very different. What that means is they have to do something. 3 or 4 years ago, boards didn't have information risk on their risk register, or if they did, it was a single risk amongst 20 or 30 others, and the person who owned it was the poor head of IT or the CISO. Boards now actually have to recognize that there are between 5 and 15 specific information-related risks that are tied to either nation-state type activity, advanced persistent threats, collateral damage from CNI attacks, and they've got to put in place appropriate strategies to deal with those risks, and they have to be able to monitor and review their effectiveness in dealing with those risks.
And do you think that commercial organizations in particular have taken enough steps to do that?
It's absolutely clear when you see the ongoing range of successful cyber attacks that in neither the public nor the private sector have the majority of organizations done anything like enough to protect themselves from being hacked. And in a way, it's not surprising. We live in an environment where most people treat their information as being unimportant. You can find out most of what you want to know on Facebook. So how do you get somebody who's used to revealing all on Facebook to protect all inside the cyber perimeter? And until boards get to grips with the fact they're operating in a very different world, they will never take appropriate steps to do even simple things like encrypting USB sticks or laptops.
Timely warning indeed. Calder from IT Governance, thank you very much.
That's a pleasure.